into custody following what the team called a medical episode. Police officers thought Graham was under the influence following a call about a man behaving strangely near a Southern California resort Friday night. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Monday Drive is busy. Alhambra, it's going to be flooding on that 10 west. The 710 north and south transitions off limits here with a busy drive from Fremont. Highland Park, it's a wreck on the 110 south at York, Pasadena. Right lane blocked. You're loaded up from Orange Grove. The 110 south at Avenue 52, also seeing a collision here in the right lane. Sun Valley, some flooding on that 5 north at Lancashire. 3 right lanes are coned off there, and we're busy from Elise Penrose. And somebody stalled out in Culver City. The 405 north is get towards Jefferson. Looks like they're stuck in the right lane, leaving LAX a busy drive as far back as Century.
Warning, if you are 60 or older, RSV can be a dangerous respiratory virus.
Not all dangers come with warning labels. Talk to your pharmacist or doctor about getting vaccinated against RSV today. Learn more at bewareofrsv.com. This message is brought to you by Pfizer.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Chargers and Rams have something in common after week 2 of the NFL preseason. Both teams aren't sure if they have the right guy as a backup quarterback. In the Chargers' 5-point loss Sunday to New Orleans, Easton Stick played the entire game in place of Justin Herbert. He threw 2 interceptions and lost a fumble. Stetson Bennett got most of the snaps Saturday night against the Raiders in place of Matthew Stafford. Bennett threw an interception that was returned 50 yards for a touchdown. The Chargers and Rams have 2 more weeks of practice and 1 more exhibition game to figure out their backup situation. Lakers guard Austin Reeves scored 16 points off the bench Sunday to help USA Basketball beat Germany by 9. The U.S. team went 5-0 in FIBA World Cup exhibitions. First real game for the U.S. in the FIBA World Cup is Saturday versus New Zealand. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 is dedicated to empowering our communities by providing progressive talk radio for our audience. We strive to be an intersectional voice for the voiceless. As a Black-owned and operated station, we are committed to highlighting diverse perspectives and creating safe spaces for meaningful dialogue. We believe that everyone has something unique to bring to these political, economic, social, and cultural conversations, and we don't shy away from the hard conversations about current events. We endeavor to be a beacon of hope and understanding, while boldly challenging listeners to think more deeply about difficult topics that impact us all. With this in mind, our mission statement at KBLA Talk 1580 is simple: to create an inclusive platform that promotes civil discourse through honest dialogue and encourages personal growth among our listeners, so they can become the active agents of change. Our vision is to establish ourselves as the premier radio network with relevant programming across the beloved community, connecting people through shared experiences and collective power for lasting impact beyond these challenging times.
I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm delighted to have you tuned in today to our program. It's going to be a great 3 hours. We've done 1 hour already. That was a great dialogue with Dr. Freddie Haynes. And now, in this hour, 2 conversations. On the B side of this hour, we'll talk some trending political topics with Siriusxm host Shermichael Singleton. But I'm pleased now to have a dialogue about the potential negative impacts of the proposed FDA ban on menthol cigarettes. Sonia Pruitt is the founder of the Black Police Experience and former chair of the National Black Police Association, and she has some grave concerns about the unintended consequences of this effort by the Biden administration to ostensibly save the lives of black smokers. Sonia Pruitt, good to have you back on Tavis Smiley. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you? And thank you for having me.
It's good to have you back. If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing well and always honored to be in dialogue with you. So I saw this story, and that's why I use that word ostensibly. When you see a story like this, coming out of the Biden administration, they want to do something about menthol cigarettes, your first inclination is to raise your arms up and say yes, because we know that cigarettes kill. We know that black people are being targeted by this industry to inhale, to imbibe, to smoke these menthol cigarettes. So my first reaction was to celebrate that the Biden administration, as I said a moment ago, is doing something to save the lives of black smokers. And then the more I got into it, and I started reading your comments about it, I said, I got to get Sonia Pruitt on this program to give me a better understanding of why she is so concerned about this and what these issues are. So let me just start at the beginning and get your read on what the Biden administration is doing, first of all, with this proposed FDA ban on menthol cigarettes. So tell me how you read what they're doing, and then we'll talk about why you're so concerned about what they're doing.
Absolutely. So that the audience can understand, this effort has been going on way before the Biden administration. It started sort of like around 2009 when the FDA got the approval to regulate tobacco products. And so now here we are, how many years, almost 15 years later, and not only were they banning flavored products, but also wanting to add menthol to that list of tobacco products that are being banned, because they said, well, we need to help the black community. You know, anytime I hear there's going to be a ban of anything in the black community, I start getting nervous. So I started doing my own research maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and I realized, you know, this is just like any other war on our community. The war on drugs didn't work, right? And so now we're going to legalize marijuana, but we're going to ban menthol cigarettes, which black and brown people like to smoke the most. And so my thought is, why is that? So now you're looking out for our welfare. I was skeptical, and I still am.
I hadn't thought about that particular frame. Let's just take it one step at a time, one piece at a time. That's an interesting frame right there.
Okay.
That we will legalize marijuana, but we're going to ban menthol cigarettes. Just think about that for a second. That we're going to legalize marijuana, but ban these cigarettes. That's one interesting frame. We could spend hours talking just about that. But to your point, though, that the more you got into it, the more skeptical you got. Tell me about your skepticism.
Well, my first skepticism is that, like I said, anytime that there's the word ban associated with the black community, we need to start looking at, well, how is this really going to affect us? I have a colleague, his name is Elliot Boyce, used to be New York State Police. And Elliot likes to say, whenever there's a ban, there's going to be contraband. And when there's contraband, there's going to be something illegal involved. And when it's illegal, then what happens? The police become involved. Okay? So let's just as an example, we're going to ban menthol cigarettes. What that might lead to, and will probably lead to, is an illegal market. We've got some states that have banned menthol and flavored tobacco products, and they're having some issues right now because cartels, gangs, organized crimes see a way of making more money. Oh, wow, we can make these illegal products, and we can sell these to the communities that want them most, the black and brown community. And so now the police have another job to do. The FDA says, well, we're not looking for the people who smoke, but the police are looking for illegal products. And if they see you smoking, you're black, they don't have your best interest at heart. This is like, a hypothetical situation. Here they come asking you where you got your cigarettes from. Or they stop a car full of cartons of cigarettes, and they want to know where you got your cigarettes from. So now we have this interaction between the black community and the police, and we know how that goes. We have Eric Garner as an example of that. We have young black people in Ocean City being brutalized and abused by the police for vaping on the boardwalk. Such a benign thing, right? We have this happening in our communities in so many ways, this disparate interaction. And so I feel, and many of my colleagues do also, that if we make menthol products illegal, menthol cigarette products, that black people are going to do one of two things. They're going to either go and smoke something else that's not menthol, or more likely they're going to find the cheaper alternative, which they will find in an illegal market.
Yeah, I see where we're headed now. I'm glad you laid the foundation. There's a lot to interrogate about what you've already said. We'll do that when we come forward. But I hear your friend Elliot. I hear the point that he's making, that whenever something gets banned, you end up with contraband. And when you end up with contraband, somebody's going to figure out a way to provide that product illegally. And then you end up having to tussle with the police. And tussle is the kind word. Eric Garner ended up dead over some cigarettes. And so I hear the points that Sonia Pruitt is making. Again, we'll unpack a bit more about this when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What does access mean?
Access means owning a home.
Access means growing my business.
Access means building generational wealth.
No matter your goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Programs and initiatives provide the tools and resources to help you reach them. Access your financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, life doesn't stop when cancer starts. After diagnosis, treatment is vital. But for some, just getting there, to appointments, chemo, or radiation, is a major challenge. You can change that. Volunteer to give rides with the American Cancer Society Road to Recovery program. Driving for a few hours of your day can make a life-saving difference for someone with cancer. Visit cancer.org/drive to learn more.
Hi, it's Tavis Smiley. KBLA Talk 1580 is inviting you to join us on Saturday, September 16th, 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. for our very first economic empowerment event for the community. This event is free and is powered by Caltrans. We're doing this in association with Rambo House, and here's Rambo to tell you more.
Contracts. I'm going to say it again for all of us small business owners out there. Contracts. Rambo House, KBLA, Tavis, me. Oh my God, this is going to be massive. I truly thank Caltrans for giving us the opportunity to focus on contracts. Listen, that's what it's all about to be a small business in LA. That's how we hire our own. That's how we expand our community, is contracts. KBLA1580.com is for you to have a seat at our contracts-focused event. Contract Ready does it again. We had over 900 last time. So you guys know how exciting this is. And if you just think that you want to get into contracts and you're close to it, bring your friends out for September 16th at the Marriott Hotel. Listen, you know where to register. KBLA1580.com. Come see me. I can't wait to see you. Let's do it, Tavis.
So be sure to go to KBLA1580.com for all the details. We'll see you Saturday, September 16th.
Dominique DePrima here. Listen, engaging kids in conversations about finances can be a great way to teach them about money management and financial independence. You don't need to review accounts in detail, but simply having an intentional conversation can really go a long way. Like, talk to them about goals, using conversation starters like how to make decisions about saving and spending money, recycling black dollars. These conversations can help build a long-lasting foundation for a strong financial future. Whatever your financial goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Initiatives can help support you in reaching them. Access your financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
It is Tavis Smiley, and Tavis Smiley is in conversation right now with Sonia Pruitt, the founder of the Black Police Experience and former chair of the National Black Police Association. We are talking, in case you've just tuned in, about the unintended consequences that we may have to wrestle with, courtesy of this effort by the Biden administration to ban menthol cigarettes. But banning it means that there's going to be some contraband. And here we now discuss another area that brings the police into the lives of black folk. And we all know the story, as Sonia said earlier, of Eric Garner and how he ended up dead, sadly, over some cigarettes. And so we already have evidence that, when police start asking questions about where these cigarettes came from and how you got them and et cetera, the worst can happen, sadly. And so Sonia Pruitt and others, other black folk who are in this, or have been certainly in this policing world, are concerned again, about some unintended consequences of this ban that on its surface is a good thing. I mean, if we know that cigarettes kill and people get addicted to this stuff, then maybe it's not the worst thing to ban something that would save the lives of black people. But the ultimate question is whether or not you're really saving lives or putting more black folk in harm's way because they now have run-ins with cops about where they got the cigarettes that they are smoking. And so I hear the point that Sonia Pruitt is making now. I guess the first question I want to ask now, Sonia, is, and I'm not naive in asking this, why it is that we even have cops involved in policing what people are smoking. I've had so many conversations, as you well know, this won't surprise you, so many conversations over the course of my career about the interactions that cops have with black people. And certainly, I've had any number of conversations in the era of Black Lives Matter. We just celebrated the 10th anniversary of Black Lives Matter, and they have been more aggressive than anybody, arguing that there's certain roles that police play that they ought not to play. There'd be a lot more black folks still living today if they didn't have encounters with cops about stuff that cops shouldn't have been involved with in the first place. But there's so to that point, there's something that troubles me about the fact that cops could be asking you about where you got a cigarette. And in a worst case scenario, like Eric Garner, you end up dead. But why do we have cops even in those spaces?
What a great question. But like I said before, I feel like if we're going to get rid of, if we're going to legalize, let me rephrase that, legalize marijuana, and marijuana is the gateway into so many things, incarceration, the first arrest, a search of your car or your home or your person. That's what marijuana has been to the black community from the policing standpoint. So if you're going to legalize that, well, what are we going to replace it with? Now, I might be, reaching for straws, or there might be a conspiracy theory in my head, but that's how I feel, okay? So, like I said before, the FDA says that this is going to be a regulatory issue and that the police will not be involved in enforcing it. Police are always, let me reiterate that, always looking for an entry into a search or other criminal activity. It's just like pretextual stop. Okay, I'm going to stop you for this tail light or for not stopping for this stop sign, but really I want to get into your car. There is going to be nothing that stops police officers from using cigarettes in the same manner. And not only that, when we're talking about an illegal market, I've been trying to get away from saying black market.
Yeah, I hear you.
But when you have an illegal market for cigarettes, and you've got cartels, you've got drugs, you've got guns, you've got human trafficking, there's going to be nothing that stops, especially federal police, from asking questions about where people got cigarettes, even if it's a carton that they got from across the border, okay? Or from an indigenous people's reservation. There's nothing that stops police from asking those questions.
Let me just ask a question about policing. You did this for a lot of years before you retired, obviously. And again, not naive in asking this, but why is it? I mean, this is my word, not yours. Why is it that cops are so nosy? Why is it that they feel this need? What is this pull, this draw to want to get inside our vehicle? What's that about?
Well, I think it's a number of things. I think it's partly because police have been given such expansive power, and that power can get away from you. It becomes so big, it becomes bigger than you. And I have this power. It's just like when police say they wouldn't comply or they wouldn't listen to me. Well, sometimes we don't have to listen to you, police. But the power, that power inequity, we have structural and institutional racism in policing. So people who are the police, who are law enforcement, federal, local, no matter who it is, they feel empowered. And if you can't control that power, then there's nothing. Someone has said, and I've heard it many times in my training, you can ask people whatever you want, but why would I, right? No one ever discusses with police officers or cadets or recruits in the police academy, why would you ask that person? Don't you feel like they'll be put upon? Don't you feel like sometimes it might be crossing the line to ask these questions? We don't have those conversations in the police academy.
Mm-hmm.
What you are told is you have a right to have this information. It's your job to police these people, and these people tend to be Black and brown people more than anyone else. And if I sound really excited, it's because I'm passionate about this. We need to be about the business of protecting our communities that are vulnerable.
Yeah, I can't imagine that police, and maybe I'm misreading this, could care that much about where you got a cigarette. Am I just stuck on stupid in that regard? I mean, why would
no.
of all the things you could ask me? I mean, do you really care where I got my menthol cigarette?
No.
Yeah.
It's about the power. And you know what else it's about? It's also about what else can I find?
Yeah.
You might have a gun in this car. You might have a body in the trunk. Whatever they made up in their minds. That's just the entryway. Yeah. They're not caring that you're smoking and that you could be, stepping into lung cancer or whatever the ill may be.
Sure.
They want to know what else they can find. And if they are nefarious type, they want to know what else they can get you on. So maybe they can arrest you for that cigarette, but maybe they can find something else.
Yeah. I know what the FDA stands for, Federal Drug Administration. I get all of that. I know what they do ostensibly in their work every day. I get all of that. And yet I'm trying to understand whether or not the FDA and the Biden administration writ large ever consider these unintended consequences when they do something that on its surface may be done for the right reason, but it's going to cause all hell to break loose. I mean, my point is, it just seems to me that nobody talked to the FDA, nobody talked to the Biden administration about what might happen if they push this through. Again, I understand their reasons for doing it, but if, to your point, the cigarette, the illegal cigarette takes the place of the illegal joint, and that gives them the pretext to stop you, then we're right back where we started. And it just, again, seems to me that nobody had any conversation with the Biden administration or with the FDA about what might happen if you ban cigarettes that tend to be used or smoked by Black and brown people, and this increase in police harassing young Black and brown people about what they're smoking and where they got it. That conversation seems not to have happened. Does that make sense to you?
That makes great sense, which is why we're out here pounding the pavement and having these discussions with people like yourself so that the community can have some education and know what's going on. Let me just say about the FDA. The FDA has done their own study that indicate, for instance, that menthol in cigarettes is not associated with an increase in disease risk to any user, right? We know that nicotine is the addictive substance in cigarettes. It's not menthol. And then there have been subsequent studies, and there's just not enough evidence to support that menthol in cigarettes causes dependence. So why are we focusing on menthol and then applying it to the Black community, right? They have this information. So what we're asking for is to be listened to. As former law enforcement, there's a whole cadre of us who are speaking on this subject. We would like for there to be studies, and we have HBCUs who could do research, like a Howard University, about how this impacts our community from a medical standpoint and from a mental and societal standpoint, if you will. We would like for grassroots community organizations, let me put it that way, or people who are just a part of the community to be able to weigh in on this. And now the FDA is having listening sessions, I think today and tomorrow. I'm speaking on one of those, but that's just not enough. We've been talking about this now for years, and we're wondering, who are they listening to if they are not listening to the people who are going to be directly affected?
So to your point, if we know that it is the nicotine that is the addictive part of the cigarette, not the menthol, or certainly there's not enough evidence to suggest that menthol is addictive at this point. If we know that, then why do we think the Biden administration, why do we think the FDA is pushing this through? What's that about?
Well, that's one of the questions that we would love to have answered. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like we're just stuck on. We're going to do this. We're going to save people. If you really want to save people, and I am not a smoker. I have people in my family who smoke, who I love, and I wish they would not. But if you want to save people, then perhaps you could try banning all cigarettes. But we also know that prohibition does not work.
Mm-hmm.
So where is the education and cessation support? Where is the money for that? Where are the efforts in that area, in the Black community in particular, since you're saying that you're trying to save Black people? What about approving and making accessible harm reduction products? What about there are already regulations on the book to prevent, for instance, youth from buying tobacco products? Why not strengthen and bolster those regulations? But instead, you're focusing on banning. And again, we know that prohibition from the 1920s didn't work with alcohol. Why do you think it's going to work with cigarettes?
Yeah. Let me ask, and there may not be an answer to this. Let me ask anyway. I appreciate the fact, I respect the fact that Black law enforcement are speaking out about this issue and making the connection between the banning of these menthol cigarettes and what we know is going to happen. And by know, I mean we know there's going to be increased police activity. We know there's going to be they can use this ban as pretext for a stop to look and search for something else. Yeah, I think the evidence is pretty clear that that's going to happen somewhere down the road. It happened to Eric Garner, and we know it's going to happen when they ban these cigarettes. To the extent they do that, and it appears that they're poised to do just that. So I'm glad to see that law enforcement, Black law enforcement, and former law enforcement are speaking out about this because they can see what's about to happen here. This ain't y'all's first rodeo, right? Y'all can see what's about to happen. Mm-hmm. My question is, to the extent that what's the Black medical community saying about this? Have they been supportive? Are they in lockstep with Black law enforcement?
That's an interesting, and I love that question. So I was just on a webinar earlier listening in where some officials from the American Medical Association, Black doctors, also weighed in on this.
Okay.
And they see the same thing that we do, from a criminal standpoint, but they also see it from a health policy standpoint, and that it's not effective policy, and it's definitely not effective health policy. Mm-hmm. This is not how you get people to stop smoking, by criminalizing it or even making it an administrative violation to stop using a certain type of cigarette. They were not in support of that. Yeah. And not only are doctors weighing in, but people like Trayvon Martin's mother, Sabrina Fulton, and Gwen Carr, who was Eric Garner's mom, and Ben Chavis, Reverend Al Sharpton. Mm-hmm. We've got organizations like the Drug Policy Alliance, the ACLU. People are weighing in on this, but the problem is, are we being heard? And I don't think so. Or maybe they're listening, but they don't want to hear. But it's going to be an issue, and it's going to be very much to me like the 1994 crime bill, where decades later, now everybody's apologizing. We don't want that to happen when we can prevent it now.
Do you think finally that the Biden administration was well intentioned but misguided? I mean, how did they miss the mark on this?
Well, again, this started in 2009, and so the mark has been missed for years now, and I don't know why people are. It's beyond me how you can have all of this evidence in your face,
right?
But either ignore it or decide that we're just gonna stay the course.
Yeah. Well, you put your finger on it. We all have had. I have had more conversations I can count about that 1994 crime bill and all the mistakes that were made there. That people, including Bill Clinton and Hillary, apologized for years later. And I hear your point that we could be making the same mistake again. So you ban these menthol cigarettes, and it leads to increased tension between cops and Black and brown kids smoking these cigarettes on this underground illegal market. And then somebody starts saying that was a bad idea 5-10 years ago. It's the same thing I've seen in my career with zero tolerance in schools. Well, we did it after Columbine to stop kids from bringing weapons to school. But zero tolerance is stupid because kids make mistakes. So zero tolerance just doesn't work. And so you end up rethinking these things years later. I digress for now, but Sonia Pruitt, I'm glad you're on the case as you always are. And I'm glad you're raising your voice, and I hope that the FDA and the Biden administration see the light before it's too late on this. Sonia Pruitt, former chairwoman of the National Black Police Association, retired police captain, and founder of the Black Police Experience. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Sonia. I appreciate you for it.
Thank you.
All the best to you. More Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
MC Light for AARP. Hip-hop, the cultural phenomenon that took New York by storm in 1973, is celebrating 50 years of rocking mics and crowds. Whether you're a ride-or-die hip-hop head or simply curious about its origins, check out the latest issue of AARP, the magazine. It celebrates this incredible milestone with a featured story brimming with fun hip-hop facts and history. Head over to aarp.org/black community to learn more.
Community is more than where you live. It's the people in it who go above and beyond to help it thrive. During the 50th anniversary of hip-hop and the 75th anniversary of Black Radio, AARP recognizes the members, volunteers, people, and partners giving back to our communities. We believe when our efforts drive change for the greater good, we all thrive together. To learn more about how AARP supports efforts to keep our communities thriving, visit aarp.org/black community.
Thank you for sharing a part of your Monday. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New York City African-American Mayor Eric Adams is en route to Israel for a 3-day trip. The purpose of Adams' trip to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem is to highlight his ties to the Jewish community as he tries to firm up support for a second term as mayor. New York City has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. He'll focus on Israel's technology and the city's dramatic rise in anti-Semitic incidents. More than 3,000 movie theaters across the country will offer discounted tickets this Sunday. It's in honor of National Cinema Day. All movies in all formats will cost less than $4. That includes even Oppenheimer in IMAX theaters if showtimes aren't already sold out. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
In the Cahuenga Pass, we've got a mudslide on the 101 northbound at Universal Studios Boulevard. Has the right lane blocked still. Traffic is jammed up from Highland Avenue. In Commerce, a pothole on the 5 south at Slauson. And you've got a wreck working on the 5 northbound at Lankershim Boulevard, blocking your 2 right lanes. In the Newhall Pass, 5 north and southbound at the 14, the truck lanes are closed.
Warning. If you are 60 or older, RSV can be a dangerous respiratory virus.
Not all dangers come with warning labels. Talk to your pharmacist or doctor about getting vaccinated against RSV today. Learn more at bewareofrsv.com. This message is brought to you by Pfizer.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. At Blindster, we offer over 50 different custom window treatments, including faux wood blinds and shutters, all at prices less than retail. Plus, we'll send you free samples before you buy. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Chargers and Rams have something in common after week 2 of the NFL preseason. Both teams aren't sure if they have the right guy as a backup quarterback. In the Chargers' 5-point loss Sunday to New Orleans, Easton Stick played the entire game in place of Justin Herbert. He threw 2 interceptions and lost a fumble. Stetson Bennett got most of the snaps Saturday night against the Raiders in place of Matthew Stafford. Bennett threw an interception that was returned 50 yards for a touchdown. The Chargers and Rams have 2 more weeks of practice and 1 more exhibition game to figure out their backup situation. Lakers guard Austin Reeves scored 16 points off the bench Sunday to help USA Basketball beat Germany by 9. The U.S. team went 5-0 in FIBA World Cup exhibitions. First real game for the U.S. in the FIBA World Cup is Saturday versus New Zealand. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
What make you? Yeah. The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today. For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event, or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
Indeed, and we are pleased to be joined now by Shermichael Singleton, political commentator and the host of the Shermichael Singleton Show on Siriusxm, to talk about some of some trending political headlines today. Shermichael, good to hear you, have you back on the program, sir. How are you today?
It's a pleasure to be back with you, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Nah, man, good to hear your voice, and thank you for the time. Let me start with this. This poll came out a couple of days ago, and I've been literally pouring through it, trying to make sense of it. The headline, of course, got my attention, but I wanted to understand it a little bit better, so I've been again, spending some time with it. But the headline of the poll is that voters share almost no political beliefs. I'm talking about the left and the right. But they appear to agree on one thing, that we are failing as a nation. And I raise this because I've seen this most recent poll and some others of late that seem to suggest that there is now a majority of Americans who believe that our best days as a country, our best days as a nation are behind us. And that's scary to me for a lot of reasons, which you and I can unpack here over the next few minutes. But how do you read this data that's coming out? And again, this is just one of a number of polls I've seen of late, that most Americans, whether they're left or Democrat, Republican or Democrat, left or right rather, Republican or Democrat, think that we, broadly speaking, are failing as a nation, that we are on the wrong track.
I mean, Tavis, I'm not surprised. I'm familiar with it. And as you've cited, there are and have been similar polls over the past couple of years now that have sort of indicated this serious frustration and hopelessness among a growing percent of Americans. Mm-hmm. And once upon a time, it was mostly among racial minorities, in part because of the marginalization that we've seen in the country. But now, Tavis, you're seeing this across all Americans, including the majority population, that being white. You see a growing divide between wealth and income prosperity. You see a growing divide with education, a growing divide with health care and other resources. And so I think it is people not having access to those things that's growing anxiety. And at some point, Tavis, I believe this is going to turn into ire. And I hope that this doesn't turn to people wanting to physically actualize their frustration and hopelessness.
Yep, I'm glad you went there because I want to follow you there, because that's the end game here. Like if this fatalism, as it were, takes hold, where does that lead us? I'm looking at these numbers now. 2/3 of Republicans over 65, 2/3 of them say the country is on the verge of failure. Now, again, when you got a bunch of white folk who are up in age, who are suggesting to you that they believe the nation is on the verge of failure, that's a pretty damning indictment, is it not?
No, I think it is, Tavis. And again, you know, I think race still plays a pivotal role in our country, but I'm starting to see a lot of data, Tavis, that indicates that these economic and educational disparities are real.
Mm-hmm.
And it perhaps may be two of the most critical singular things that we've seen in a very long time, arguably even ever, that could bring people together despite their racial, ethnic, and gender and religious differences. That's my hope, because then I would argue that if there is agreement, you're able to build coalitions that can then in turn put pressure on legislators, that can put pressure on these corporate duopolies to change things, to foster an environment where everyone is given an ethical shot, if you will, to achieve and to reach for their dreams and their goals. That's the only path forward, I would argue. Now, granted, this is early. We'll see where this stuff goes in the next decade or so. But I want to be optimistic here, Tavis, that people will come together and say, you know what, these other divides, we got to put them to the side. We got to discard them. There's some bigger things ahead of us.
Yep. I've said this more times than I can count. This audience knows that. I do believe that our democracy is fragile. I believe that we are on the precipice. I believe that poverty is a threat to our very democracy. I believe that this growing gap between the rich and the rest of us cannot be sustained. Say nothing of global warming and climate change. There's a long list of things that I think are damaging not just our democracy, but frankly our very existence. That said, I wonder whether or not this really is fatalism, or whether or not this is just politics. Whether or not people are telling these pollsters that they believe our country's on the verge of failure because the guy they want isn't in the White House at the moment.
I don't think that's true, Tavis. I think it is fatalism, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I used to be a deputy chief of staff at HUD. And when you would look at the data on people having access to home ownership, which traditionally was the way you would build wealth in this country, those numbers are decreasing, particularly for people in my age group, millennials, or like Johnny, who works with you on the radio show in our age group. It's harder for us to buy homes, man. You look at the survey results of people who live in major cities. Tavis, to get a 900 square foot apartment is $2,000-$3,000.
Yeah.
People can't afford it. They say, well, get an education. That'll help you. To go to school, average tuition is $30,000-$40,000. Most families don't have the money saved for this. So I think it is fatalism, Tavis. I think it's real for people. People are struggling. They're looking for help, whether it's from the left, from the right, and they're not getting it. And guess what? During the COVID pandemic, Tavis, we spent over $6 trillion. The government did. We saw household income increase by over $30 trillion. But guess what? Most of that wealth was regulated to the top 10%. People are saying they're sick of this.
Yeah. I wonder to what extent the pandemic and the resulting economic impact has people feeling so fatalistic. I mean, I wondered about this during the pandemic, and so said to a number of friends. I've said it, I'm sure, on this program, that the mental anguish that came along with just being locked up in that way, and the fear and trepidation that people had that we would never get back to things being normalized. And indeed, there is a new normal. To what extent do you think the pandemic and, again, the resulting economic impact have caused more fellow citizens to feel this sense of fatalism?
I think it was a realization for most people that if an emergency were to ever occur, they really are not prepared.
Yeah.
There was a Susie Orman survey that came out, Tavis, a couple months ago that garnered a lot of attention, specifically in the business community. And what it showcased was close to 90% of Americans can't afford an emergency bill between $500 and $1,000. Close to 90%, Tavis, regardless of the ethnic breakdown.
Sure.
And so what COVID showed us was that if we have an emergency pandemic, people can't afford to buy food. They can't afford to take care of the baby. They can't afford to pay for rent. And God forbid, when you incorporate the medical costs, right, of potentially having to go to the hospital for weeks or a month, or to take care of an ailing parent or grandparent that may have also suffered through the virus, people feel insecure because they don't have the means to take care of themselves or people who are close to them, Tavis. That is going to cause significant anxiety across the country, and it is going to lead to that fatalism where people feel that they don't have anything to look forward to.
So we mentioned some Republican numbers a moment ago. There are fewer Democrats, according to this most recent survey, who see the country as nearing collapse, fewer Democrats, but gender is the defining characteristic associated with this sort of pessimistic outlook about our future. Gender is the defining issue. When we come forward, I'll tell you what Democratic and Republican women feel about the future of this country. But again, gender is the defining issue in this survey about fatalism. And we'll unpack that with Shermichael Singleton when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go: shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms: irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol-Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Parents, we know we can't protect our kids from everything. Eventually, they're going to bump their heads or scrape their knees. But we can protect them from 6 types of cancer. HPV, or human papillomavirus, is a common preventable virus that can cause cancer later in life. The HPV vaccine prevents human papillomavirus and all the cancers it can cause. The American Cancer Society recommends getting your sons and daughters the HPV vaccine starting at age 9 to protect them later in life.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, could potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in standing for voting rights. When We All Vote is a leading national nonpartisan initiative on a mission to change the culture around voting and to increase participation in each and every election by helping to close the race and age gap. Created by Michelle Obama, When We All Vote brings together individuals, institutions, brands, and organizations to register new voters across the country and advance civic education for the entire family and voters of every age to build an informed and engaged electorate for today and generations to come. When We All Vote empowers their supporters and volunteers to take action through voting, advocating for their rights, and holding their elected officials accountable. Please visit whenweallvote.org to stand up for your rights, voting rights. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
It does indeed with Shermichael Singleton, host of the Shermichael Singleton program on Siriusxm, talking, in case you've just tuned in, about this new study. And there have been a number of these of late that suggest that a majority of Americans think apparently that our best days as a nation are behind us. Many Americans, many fellow citizens feel that our country is on the verge of failing. And so we're talking about that fatalism and where that's coming from and perhaps what can be done about it in the months and years to come. So I was saying a moment ago, Shermichael, that fewer Democrats see the country nearing collapse than do Republicans. But the ultimate and defining issue here with this survey is gender. Democratic and Republican women, both Democratic and Republican women, are more likely than their male counterparts to feel pessimistic and fatalistic about our future. That surprised me. And I'm not even sure why it surprised me, except for the fact that, that women, I'm generalizing here, but women are mothers, women have babies, women, find a way to push through. My mother says all the time, you want something done right, get a woman to do it. So I guess I was a little distressed because I thought that women might be a little more optimistic than men who complain and are grumpy and et cetera, et cetera. But according to this data, Republican and Democratic and Republican women are more likely than males to be fatalistic about the future, to feel fatalistic about our future. How did you read that?
I was actually surprised by that, Tavis, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I was just on television a couple of weeks ago analyzing this data that just came out not too long ago that showcased that women are going to college at faster rates than men. They're graduating at higher rates than men. We're slowly starting to see changes in the gender wage gap depending on the particular field the woman is in. There is a growing percent of men that are committing suicide. I mean, the data was really concerning and revelatory. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw this data in terms of liberal and conservative women being fatalistic about the direction of the country, I was a bit surprised. And I thought, well, I wonder how much of the abortion issue plays a part in that. Mm. I wonder how much does access to health care play a part in that. Mm. I also wonder how much is the stress of women wanting to have their careers while also trying to be mothers and also trying to be wives, and the impact that is having, coming mostly from us as men and the rest of society, that's a lot of pressure, Tavis.
Yeah, no question.
And so I'm not surprised when you consider those variables that women are feeling, I guess, stressed. I wouldn't necessarily say depressed, but certainly feeling the expectations that we have placed upon them.
Yeah, no, so for different reasons, and I that's why I love talking to you. You make me see things through prisms that I might not have considered heretofore. Hadn't thought about it in that way, but for different reasons. But we are both, again, admittedly surprised that more women than men are pessimistic about the future of this country. I guess the penultimate question is whether anything can be done, whether we're Republican, whether we're Democrat, male or female. Can anything be done to stop us from feeling so fatalistic?
I think so. I think you have to restore hope for people. And I know that sounds like such a cliche to say, Tavis.
Hey, it may be a cliche, but it got one guy elected and got him 2 terms.
Well,
that notion of hope.
That is true.
Yeah.
But I think realistically, though, and so let's just say beyond the aspiration, you have to have legislation that targets access to affordable education. We have to further figure out ways to make access to health care affordable and cheaper. I think you have to really increase this infrastructure so that people in rural and urban areas have access to quality education and access to technology and internet. Yeah. I mean, all of these things, I would argue, fosters an environment for people to be more well-rounded individuals.
No, I get it.
I think it could lead to people having access to more competitive jobs. Mm-hmm. You got to have an education to be able to compete in a more technologically advanced society. And so I would want an approach that's centered around building up the whole individual, around education, around access to health care, and ultimately gearing those people to be able to compete for higher paying jobs, whether that's with a university job, Tavis, or with some type of a trade training.
Yeah, no, point well taken. I receive that. In our remaining moments with Shermichael Singleton, you can't have a conversation about trending news, political news, without talking about Donald Trump. And there is some trending Trump news. We'll get to it when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What does access mean?
Access means owning a home. Access means growing my business.
Access means building generational wealth. No matter your goals, U.S. Bank Access Commitment Programs and initiatives provide the tools and resources to help you reach them. Access your financial goals at usbank.com/access. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, life doesn't stop when cancer starts. After diagnosis, treatment is vital. But for some, just getting there, to appointments, chemo, or radiation, is a major challenge. You can change that. Volunteer to give rides with the American Cancer Society Road to Recovery program. Driving for a few hours of your day can make a life-saving difference for someone with cancer. Visit cancer.org/drive to learn more.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands for Unity and Healing. African Focus Incorporated is a nonprofit organization based in California that focuses on the growth and well-being of Africans all around the world. Their mission is to promote the well-being of people of African descent through knowledge and appreciation of one another by building a bridge of love and understanding. African Focus Incorporated strives for cultural, educational, and economic growth. They're the organization behind the African Family Induction Ceremony, African Goodwill Awards, African Focus Trailblazer Tours, African Dance Competition, and Showcase Los Angeles, Family Day, Good News Windows Microfinance Project, and more. To volunteer, travel with African Focus, or to attend one of their community building events, please call 310-676-7730. That's 310-676-7300. Or visit AfricanFocus.org. This is a diaspora-wide community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The Chase Ink Business Premier Card is made for people who make things happen, like me. I'm Sam, founder and CEO of Manifest, a product design company that makes everyday products designed smarter. I get 2.5% cash back on purchases of $5,000 or more, plus unlimited 2% cash back on all other purchases, which helps us make more smart ideas into a brilliant reality.
The Ink Business Premier Card. Learn more at chase.com/business premier. Chase for business. Make more of what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Account subject to credit approval. Restrictions and limitations apply. Cards are issued by JPMorgan Chase Bank. Any member FDIC.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
All right, Shermichael Singleton, we got about 4 minutes left in this conversation. There's some Trump news here, two things, specifically political news. I want to weave these things together and get out of your way and give you these last couple minutes to sound off as you wish. So there's a new poll out today conducted by the Des Moines Register, NBC News, and Mediacom before and after Mr. Trump's latest indictment in Georgia, before and after. The new poll out today, and the new survey out today, finds that 42% of Republican voters in Iowa plan to support Donald Trump. He's leading DeSantis of Florida by 23 points. That's how wide this gap is. Leading him by 23 points. In third place, Tim Scott with just 9%. I should say DeSantis has 19%. So Trump's got 42, DeSantis 19, Tim Scott in third at 9%. He's kicking all their behinds in Iowa. And this new poll, again, taken before and after the indictments, just in case you're curious. So he's dominating in this Iowa poll. As a result of that, perhaps, Trump has now confirmed that he will not participate, of course, in the first GO debate this Wednesday, but today has also teased that he may skip more debates. So not only is he's raising money, his poll numbers are growing, and now he's so arrogant that he's saying, I ain't coming to debates, not this first one, and I may not come to any of them. How do you read Donald Trump just digging his heels in?
I mean, January 2016, he skipped one debate after his back and forth with Megyn Kelly at Fox News. I'm not surprised that he's skipping this one, but I think it would be a bridge too far to skip continuous debates. I mean, people are going to expect him to show up at some point. With that said, though, Tavis, is what I've been saying for months now. Donald Trump is the likely nominee for the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty confident that we are to see a face-off again between Trump and Biden. And I'm not convinced that Donald Trump cannot win again, as some individuals are freely, willingly saying. Mm-hmm. It's going to be an easy win for Biden. I'm not certain of that. Donald Trump's approval ratings have increased over 20% over the past 3 months. He was at 50% approval within the Republican Party. Now it's at 70%. There was a recent poll that just came out that was cited on CNN earlier today that's been making its rounds all over the place here in D.C. That showcased that there isn't a leader between Trump and Biden right now. They're in a statistical tie. Now, people may say, well, it's early. Well, let me just say this, Tavis. at the same point when Trump was in office facing Biden, it was very clear that Trump was in trouble. This time around, the numbers are looking different. And what it indicates to us, those of us who are into the data, is that Donald Trump has a real mathematical probability of winning enough swing states to return to the White House. People aren't happy with Joe Biden right now or Kamala Harris. They're not happy with the economy, although the White House said, oh, everything is getting better. People don't feel it. And I'll just say this quickly. Perception is oftentimes reality.
Yeah. No, it's scary stuff, man. It is scary stuff. But he's doubling up on them in Iowa, and again, suggesting he may not do all these debates. We shall see. The first one, of course, Wednesday night. We will see what comes of that. But what does it really matter that they all show up if he doesn't? But he's still leading in the polls. Again, it's a long time between now and Election Day, but this stuff is getting more and more interesting by the day. Shermichael Singleton, good to have you on. We'll do it again, sir. All the best to you.
Thank you, Tavis. And, hey, if you want me to come on this week to analyze the debate, I'm available.
Trust me, we'll find you. We will find you because we're going to have to analyze it one way or another. Whether we want to or not, we got to analyze it. So thank you for the offer. We'll take you up on it. Amanda Seals in the next hour of Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for sharing a part of your Monday. I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. New York City African-American Mayor Eric Adams is en route to Israel for a 3-day trip. The purpose of Adams' trip to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem is to highlight his ties to the Jewish community as he tries to firm up support for a second term as mayor. New York City has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. He'll focus on Israel's technology and the city's dramatic rise in anti-Semitic incidents. More than 3,000 movie theaters across the country will offer discounted tickets this Sunday. It's in honor of National Cinema Day. All movies in all formats will cost less than $4. That includes even Oppenheimer in IMAX theaters if showtimes aren't already sold out. And that's the latest.